Good morning, everyone, and thanks for attending. I'm not going to do a whole lot with the slideshow except to go through and show you that we're going to do some system things. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but these are the tips and tricks we're going to go through for system. Then we're going to move on to financial, and we're going to look at several things in the financial series that you can do. We're going to then go into payables. There's a couple of things in payables that we're going to take a look at. And then in smart list, and there's several things in the smart list that we're going to show you, hopefully to save you some time. Then we're going to move into Excel, and we're going to do some keyboard shortcuts, and then several other things that hopefully will help you once you get into Excel. There's a couple more. We're going to look at conditional formatting. We're going to take just a little bit more time on this. And then we're going to end up with areas where you can copy, paste, and do some printing. Now, with the Excel, I decided to start with some smaller things, and then hopefully we will have another webinar, or maybe at our November conference, we can show you some more in-depth things like pivot tables and VLOOKUPs and things like that. So we're going to get started here, and I'm going to open up my Great Plains. So our first tip is put your favorite window or external task on the home navigation, and you can have a function key. So say, for instance, I'm doing journal entries all day, and I'm constantly pulling this screen up. One way that you can get that on your navigation is every window has a file, and it has add to shortcuts. So I'm going to add this to my shortcut button. When I go to my home navigation, and because it always drops it at the bottom, I see that I have my transaction entry here. I can right click on it, go to shortcut properties, and I can add a shortcut key. So I'm going to add F2 to this and say OK. Now, every time that I hit F2, that window will pop open. So you can do this with any GP window. Another nice feature is it's not just for GP, it's also you can put on any executable, any Excel Word file. How you would do that is on your home button up at the top, you'll see add, and then add external shortcut. And you would name it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one I've already created. Whoops, sorry, I clicked on it, and as you see, it actually works. Go to shortcut properties, and I just named it Excel file. You can name it whatever you want to name it. You can browse out, find that Excel file, and then again, you can put a shortcut on. Notice F2 is no longer available because I used it for the other one. I can add F3 to this one. So we can do this with any executable, any Word file, Excel, anything that you can execute within GP. Moving on to number 2, I'm in sales all day, and this is the window that I use the most. I actually want this to auto pop up when I launch GP and I log into my company. I want this window to pop open. So one way to do it, again, we would go to File, Add to Shortcut, and I already have it on my shortcut bar. So what I would do is I would either copy or cut, depending on if I want it to stay in the folder. I'm going to copy mine. I'm going to add it to the startup folder. Everyone has a startup folder. I'm going to paste it in. So anything that's within this startup folder will automatically open when I launch GP. So you can have as many windows in there if you want them to auto open once you launch. Number 3 is the month-end routine. Every module has a checklist, and it's in the routine section of that module. We can have different frequencies. As you can see, it covers quite a bit. We're going to look at the month end. So you can put on any task reports that you're going to do for month end. One nice thing is you can add notes. So I can add 16 pages of notes here. So if I go on vacation and I want to tell someone what they need to do or what they need to look out for, I can actually put that in my notes. It comes defaulted to the reconcile to GL, will be in there for you once you go into this checklist. If you want to add more, all we need to do is go to add. And one thing that I always add is my user date, because I always want to change my user date to the month that I'm closing. So I'm going to do just that. So I'm just going to say change date to end of month. And I can add a GP window, an external task, or a macro. So I'm going to add a GP window, and I know that it's in the company series, so I'm going to pick company. I'm going to go down, and I'm going to pick my user date. Say OK. And now it's there for me. I'm going to put it up at the top because this is the first thing that I want to do. When I double click, it brings open my user date, which I can then change to the end of the month I'm closing, or period that I'm closing. Notice also that it shows the date, the time, and the user that actually performed the task. One thing to note, though, is if I were doing a report, it doesn't tell me that I actually printed the report, but it will tell you that I actually clicked on it. Moving on to number 4, we can also use macros, and we can use macros with these checklists. So I'm going to just minimize this checklist, and I'm going to go to purchasing. So I'm always in the area that when I start my macro that I want my macro to run from. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to go to Tools, Macro, Record. It's going to ask me to name the macro. So I have one here called test, so I'm just going to pick that one again. And now it's going to record every step that I'm taking. So I'm going to go to my trial balance because I'm going to run a historical aging. And I'm going to go to my historical aging. I'm going to click on my option, go to modify, because I'm going to change the date every month. At this point, I'm done with my macro. So from this window, I'm going to go to Tools, Macro, Stop My Recording, and close. So now I can go back to my checklist, and I can add this macro. So I'm going to add my historical age trial balance, and I'm now going to tell it that it's macro, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to find that test macro that I just created. And then once I double click, it will run that macro. So just that quickly, you can get those reports running. And also, if you're out of the office or you're on vacation and you need these things run, the person that's running them does not need to know the navigation to get to those reports or how you want them printed. You're basically just letting them run that macro. The other thing that I can do is I can move these up and down and place them. And then the last thing I do is I'll put another one of these change dates to current. So that way I don't forget to change my user date back to the current. Okay, so we're moving on to number 5. So I'm going to go back to my home. And number 5 is the find function. A lot of users don't realize that once you print to the screen, you can actually use the find feature. So I'm going to open up my detailed inquiry, and I'm going to print this to the screen. And once it comes up to the screen and it's finished, I have the find button up here. It's also Control F. So I'm going to look for an amount. The one thing to remember is it is searching for a specific text string, so I have to get it right. When I'm looking for something that is in the thousands, I have to put my commas in or it won't recognize it. So I'm just going to put in 1,219 because I'm going to look for that. Once I say OK, it's going to find the first instance of that. If I hit Control G, it's going to find the next one, and I can just Control G until it doesn't find anything. It will do the same for any verbiage, but again, because it's a specific text string, you have to, it's case sensitive, so you're going to have to know that usually in these reports, the first letter is cap, and once I click on bank, it will go down and it will find any instance of bank that I have in these reports. Okay, number 6. We have the ability to correct journal entries. So if I click on the correct button that's in my ribbon, I can back out a journal entry, or I can back out and create a correcting one. And that's what we're going to do today. I can also do any period that I can post to. And the thing to watch out for in here, it's good to know the journal entry number before you want to back it out. And the reason I'm saying this is because I'm going to click in the looking glass because I'm in the test company. I don't have a lot of data in here. You will have probably thousands and thousands of entries because it's not looking for just the GL entries. It's going to show you every entry that hit general ledger for that year. So I've seen where it could take several minutes for this window to come open. So to save time, it's just best to know what journal entry that you want to correct. If you were to select something from a subsidiary module, you're going to get the message that you can't do it. It's only for something that originated in the GL. So I'm going to type in my journal number because I know which one I want to back out. And I'm going to say OK. Now, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to back out. And this has full audit trail. So it's going to reverse my entry. And it's going to tell me that I'm backing out journal entry 3660. And it reversed my entry, so my debits are now credits and vice versa. So I'm going to post this. The next thing you notice is saying correct journal entry 3660. So at this point, I can change accounts, I can change amount because I want to correct this. So I'm going to change my amount in this particular journal entry, and I'm going to post that. And then once I close, of course, it will post. And you'll see that I now have the two journal entries, one it was backing out and the other one that it was correcting. So this can save a lot of time, especially if you have journal entries that are very, very long. You can quickly back it out, or you can back it out and then either change the amount or change the period that you want to post it to. Okay, number 7, account roll-up inquiry. This is a very underused feature that is in GP. This is for when in your chart of accounts, if you've got departments and locations and you roll them up in your financial statement. But I want to see them before I run a financial statement, or I don't want to go to Management Reporter, look it up, and then come back and make some changes. I can do that right here. So what I've created 2 of them. One, we're going to look at cost of goods sold, and I'm going to show you how I set that up. So I can have, right now I just have one column heading. I can pull from actuals, I can pull budgets, I can do calculations, I can pull in previous year or other currency. So I'm just going to use actual, and then it asks what main segment that I'm going to use. It can be out of sequence of your chart of accounts. So this is the group that I'm going to have. So once I have made the group, I'm going to redisplay. I can view by net change or period balance. I'm going to take it back to net change, and I'm going to go to period 4. And this is showing me I have 119,000 some odd dollars. So I can go to actual, and I can see that it was made up of these 2 journal entries, and I've got my 2 locations, 01 and 04. So I can see what makes that up. I can then click on that, go to balance, and it's going to drill me down into my detail inquiry. So now I can actually go back to the subsidiary ledger from my detailed inquiry. So I can drill all the way back to the originating document. And then just to show you a different way that you can use this, I'm going to show you cash and how that was made up. This I pulled in actual previous year and I did a calculation. Calculation was very simple. I just said take column 1 minus column 2. And these are all my cash accounts that I want to put into that roll-up. So once I hit redisplay, I see that I've got all of my net changes. Again, I can click on a period, I can go to actual, and I can see that it was made up of these 2 accounts. And again, I can go down to balance and I can drill back into that. If I go to last year, it will show me that last year was made up of 3 accounts. So I can actually look at last year, and again, I can drill back into last year. So this is a underutilized feature, which I think is good for people to know that it's there. Number 8. Another underutilized feature is the user defines that are in the account maintenance. So I'm going to put in an account number. And what I did is I changed in the setup user define 1 and I said responsible person. So I'm going to say that Jane Doe is responsible for the credit card receivables at the end of each month. So that way I know that she's responsible for tying out these accounts. I can then run reports to see who is responsible for different accounts if you have that feature. Another thing that I have found that it's useful for, and I'll go back to the beginning, is instead of responsible person here, you could have department and you could have location or any other segments that you have in your chart of accounts. A lot of people will take their trial balances out to Excel. Your account number is one field, and you would have to use the text to columns in Excel to separate those location department. Well, the user defines are available to you in Report Writer to put on that report. So if you were to put on your segments here and the main segment is available in that report, you can then have those all separated before you get to Excel, and it would just save you some time. So those are a couple of things that we have found with these user-defined fields that you can use. Number 9 is cash flow calendar. With GP 2013, I believe you now have access to the cash flow calendar. You have to turn it on in registration, but once you turn it on, there's just a small setup screen that you have to go through. This will give you all your ins and outs of your cash. You're going to define where it's going to get its beginning balance from. Anything that is in red is money coming out. So I'm going to click on this, and I want to see what makes up this $15,000. So I know it's payables, and I see that it is my 2 vouchers that make up this $15,000, and they're due on the 20th. So I can see that I have some money that I need to go out of the checking account. Again, I can double click on any one of these and it will take me down to the originating document. So I can do that on any payables, receivables that show up in these windows. Another thing you can do with the cash flow calendar is make your own, what they call transactions. It has nothing to do with the general ledger. It's just saying, I know I'm going to spend some money, or I know I'm going to get some money, and I want to account for it in my cash flow. So here I made a $25,000 entry because I'm going to buy some equipment. So I'm going to go to my cash flow management transaction, and I see that I made one for $25,000. I just want to account for that in my calendar. I can go through the months and I can see what's happening with my cash. I can also click on the 12th here because I see that there's a lot of money coming in. I'm going to go to my receivables in my open, and I see that, notice that the due date is all the 12th. This is all the money that's supposed to be coming in on the 12th because that's the due date. So this can be a very nice feature so that you can quickly look at the ins and outs of your cash. If you need help setting that up, just let us know and we'd be happy to assist with that. Moving on into payables, number 10. It's very common these days for ACH or auto withdrawals from your bank. One thing we can do is we can put them into the cash management transactions and we can put them in, but it's not very visible to us. Another way to do this is to put it into payables. So I may have my rent come out every month directly from my checking account. I may pay my 941 payment and tell the IRS to take it out of my account. So I can account for this. I'll make my vendor. I'm going to pick on my favorite Ace Travel here. And I put in my document number. I can put in the amount. Then I'm going to go over to cash and I'm going to put in the amount there. The window pops open for me to define what checkbook it's going to come out of. The one nice thing is it always will default to cash. So you could put cash down every single time. But maybe you want to say this is ACH. You can then run reports to say these are my ACH payments that I made for the month because maybe you missed putting one in, or I can put in rent there and I can use that every single time. So this is just a nice way to put in all of those ACH or auto withdrawals that you have from the bank. And then the ability to edit payables transactions. Again, I'm going to pick travel company, and we have 2 outstanding vouchers here. These are vouchers that were entered and posted, but they're not paid. I have the ability to change discount dates, due dates, PO number, and the description. It does not allow me to change the actual number or the amount or the document date, but I can change these fields. Okay, number 12, Smart List. So I'm going to open up my Smart List. With GP 2013 R2, we now have the Smart List Designer. And we can create our own Smart List. But if you're like me, when you first start using these, I don't know what table to use. I don't know what information is sitting in those tables. How do I find out? So number 12, what's in a table? This is a very easy way to start learning what the tables are and what they contain. So I'm just going to click on financial and I'm going to go to new. And presented before me are all of my products that I have. I have my GP. I have any other additional ISV or dictionary like my fixed assets that I can use. I can link tables together. So I'm going to go to my Dynamics GP and I'm going to look at financial. And I'm just going to go down to my cash management and I want to look at my cash management receipts. This will show me all of the fields that are contained within this table. When I'm building a report, I don't want to pick them all because SQL does have a character limit in just the report designer that it's quite a bit. But if you start picking every field from every table that you're going to link, you may run into that limit. But I want to see everything that's in this table. So I'm going to click on the box by the CM receipt. And now I want to see what's in here. So I'm going to go up to execute query. It's going to show me all of the data that resides in this table. So I can see if this is the table that I need to design my report. It's also great for linking tables because I can look at what I need to link to, what's in common with these 2 tables. Can I actually link them? Or how do I link them? It also gives me the SQL query. Most of us do not have access to SQL and Management Studio because this is where you normally would go, do your select statement, see what's in the table, see if it's what you need. But this is the actual select table that is actually written in SQL and it's returning back to you. This is the one that has the character limit. as you're pulling down the fields for those reports. So I'm done looking at that one. Maybe I want to look at my CM journal. Again, I can execute. I can see what's in here. So you see how this would be very useful just to get familiar with the tables and what's in them so that you can build your own reports. Number 13, the who, what, when in GL transactions. A lot of times we want to know who posted something, what did they post, when was it posted. I want to see it. I can get this on a smart list. So under my account transactions, I just made one so it would come up to the top, AA. I've already put in who posted it. So if I go to column and I go to add, we're going to add the rest of our who, what, when. So I'm going to go down to my O's. My O's are the originating documents that I can, or fields that I can get from my subsidiary ledger. So I'm going to pick my originating master ID. I'm going to hold my control key down so I can pick several. My master name. And I'm going to pick my document number. So that's my what. And then my when is when was it posted. I can get the originating posted date. So I'm going to take my finger off the control key, say okay, and okay. And now I have my information that was posted. And again, I can go to my search and I can say that maybe the posted date was between this date and this date because I'm trying to tie out a month and I need to just restrict it to those dates. Another thing that we can do with the Smart List is that there is a feature that comes in handy when you want to export the Smart List data to the same Excel file on a regular basis. You may want to do this daily, monthly, yearly, but you want to use the same Excel spreadsheet. You can also, that Excel spreadsheet might have macros on it that you want to run. And so this will give you the ability to do all of that. So what you want to do first is you want to save your Smart List as a favorite, which I've already done. I usually take them out to Excel, save the file so that I know what Excel file I want it to go into. Then back in your Smart List, you're going to go under Smart List, Export Solutions. I've created one, so I'm just going to bring that one up. I called mine GL Transactions. It's user defined, what you name it. I told it where my Excel file was located. If I needed to run any macros, I can run them. I can make this visible to everyone or just me. I can do Excel or Word. And then the most important part is you want to pick the favorite that this is attached to. So I'm going to go to my account transactions and notice it's attached to my file here. So once I have all of this set up, when I go to export to Excel, it's not going to automatically go to Excel like it normally does. So I'm going to pick my GL transactions and that will take it out to the Excel file that I have previously saved. Or I can do a quick export, which will take it out to a new Excel file. So this is a good segue now into our Excel shortcuts. So we're going to open up Excel. Now, on your handouts, I've given you the same Excel spreadsheet that I'm working from. So that way you can look a little bit closer at these things that we're going to show you. Like I said before, we're going to kind of start out with some basic features of Excel, and then hopefully in another session move on to doing more things like pivot tables and VLOOKUP. So we're going to start with the shortcuts. So one thing I can do in my shortcut is I can always use my mouse and I can use my auto sum button up here in the ribbon if I want to. But all I have to do is if I just want to use the keyboard and don't want to mess with the mouse, the Alt equal sign and then enter will automatically sum that. Number 2 in this shortcut feature is I've got some cells here and I want to format them because they're different decimal sizes. So I just want to make them all 2 decimals. So just a quick way to do that is after I've highlighted them, I just hit Control 1 and my format cells automatically open. Then I can say it's a number, 2 decimals, and I can quickly get everything formatted. Or again, you can do it with text, general, whatever you need. Another shortcut is if you need the ability to copy a value from the cell above. So I've got a cell here with this number in it, and I want to copy it down just to the cell underneath it. And it could be text, it could be whatever is in that cell above it. So I'm going to hit my Control Shift and then my quotes key, and it will automatically drop down whatever is on top of it. Another one of my favorites is the undo. I use it all the time. So I'm going to put in a couple things and, oops, that's wrong. I could go up to the top and use my undo, but my Control Z will undo everything that I've done. So I can just stay right on my keyboard and keep on working. F7 will start my spell check. So F7 will bring up spell check so I can start spell checking my document as I go along. So I'm going to tell it yes to go ahead and change that. And then it'll say, do you want to continue? I'm just going to say no, just fix what I've done there. Another handy feature or shortcut key is I may have a spreadsheet that has a lot of formulas on it, but something's wrong and I need to look at those formulas. I could come down to each one, click on it, look up here in the bar and see, oh, yep, that's that formula, but that's very time consuming. So the Control plus it's the slanted quote key, and it's on the tilde key that is to the left of your 1 button. So I'm just going to call it the tilde key. So if you do Control and then that tilde key, you can be anywhere in the spreadsheet. It will open up the whole spreadsheet and show you every single formula that you have in that spreadsheet so that you can quickly look and say, oh, yep, that one's right, no, that one's wrong, I got to change it. And then again, to get it back, you just hit your Control tilde and it comes back. Number 7 is the Alt key. If I hold my Alt key down, it takes a second, that will show you all the other shortcuts that you have, not the ribbon, but the top piece of it. And those all work with the Alt key. But I want to look at the ribbons as well. So if I hold the Alt key down, the H, and then the D, that will take me over to my delete cells. So I don't have to use my mouse to delete cells. I can just go up and down and I can delete whatever that is in that cell. So the Alt plus the H will bring my home key up. If I want to do any other one, I can hit my Alt key and then, do my inserts. And just very quick way of doing things without using the mouse. Okay, so we're going on to number 16. We're going to look at transposing data. So I've created this little chart here, and I put my names at the top and my months down at the bottom. Now I realize I've got more people, and I'd rather have the people down the side of the page and my months up at the top. So all I'm going to do is highlight it. I'm going to right click and use this so that you see actually what I'm doing. I'm doing a copy. Then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste special, and I'm going to use the transpose button. So now all of my months are at the top and my names will be going down to the bottom. Number 17, we're going to autofill. So I've got numbers here, and I've already made the first calculation that says take the A22 plus the B22. And I just want to copy it down my page because I may have 100 or 1,000 lines that I want to copy. In the lower right-hand corner, there's a little box, and when you hover over it, your cursor becomes a little plus sign. And all you do is drag down, and it will drag down that formula to every other field that's on there. Another nice way of auto-filling is if I have Monday and I just drag down, it starts filling in the days of the week. I can do the same thing for the month. And notice that I put January as abbreviated. It will then abbreviate every month. If I spelled out January, I would get the actual month. Numbers are a little different. If I drag this down, all I'm going to get is ones. So I need to tell Excel what my pattern is. So I could do a 1 and a 2. Then I'm going to highlight both of them so it knows my pattern. And when I go down, it's going to give me 3, 4. I can do any pattern. I could do a 2 and a 4, and I just want all even numbers. Again, it's just going to follow your pattern. I can also do quarters. So I did March and June. I pull down, it's going to give me my quarters. So again, you can use these autofills to quickly get the information, or to quickly fill out your screen before you're putting in your information. One of my favorite ones is the Format Painter. Normally when I'm using Excel and I'm tying something out, if I can't find something, I highlight it. And then I'm going through my list and then I find something. And now I just want to make them white again because I found it and I don't need it highlighted anymore. Well, normally what you would do is you would highlight something, go to the Format Painter, and then paint that one, and then go to the next one and use your Format Painter, and it takes a lot of time. But what I'm going to do is, because I have different types, I've got dates, I've got text, I've got numbers, I'm going to highlight the whole thing. But the key is, in your with your Format Painter, just double click on it. So double click. I want to highlight the white line because I want them white. And then I'm going to double click on my Format Painter. And notice as I'm clicking, I can do multiples. And it's keeping my types. So all my dates are still dates, all my texts are still text, and all my numbers are still numbers. And then I can just hit escape, or I can hit the Format Painter again to stop that. Number 19, you don't have to start a formula with the equal sign or equal sum. So I'm just going to click, or I'm going to type in plus K14 plus K15, and is going to add those. So I can just quickly add without having to go to without starting it with the equal sum. I'm going to combine text. This is to concatenate, or concatenation as Excel will call it. I've got my chart of accounts and I've got them in 3 different cells, and I want to put them into one cell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the concatenation, which I'm going to start with a plus, and I'm going to do J21. Now, instead of doing plus, because I don't want to add them, it's the ampersand that is the concatenation key. So I'm going to use the ampersand, and I'm going to use K21, and then the ampersand again, and L21. And then it will concatenate those fields. Now, if I want to put any kind of text in, I want to put dashes in, I may even want to put some verbiage in there, then I'm going to do it just a little different. I'm going to use the plus sign. I'm going to start with my J21. I'm going to use the ampersand, but now I want to put a dash. So I'm going to use the double quote. So I'm going to do a double quote, and then anything I type in there will be concatenated into my string. And then I'm going to close it with a quote, and then I'm going to do another plus K21 plus another dash. And then we're going to concatenate L21. And I now have concatenated. And if I have a large number, of course, I would only do the first one. But then again, I can autofill and it will autofill it down my page. Okay, number 21. I have a little schedule here and I want to quickly add it. I want a total down here and I want a total here. How can I do that? So all I'm going to do is highlight the entire range plus the total cells that I want. And I can either hit my auto sum or alt equal, and it will automatically just auto add down and across for me. Another great feature that I don't think a lot of people utilize is the auto calculate menu. So if I don't want to add I don't want to put my auto sum, I just want to quickly add something, I can highlight the area and notice down at the bottom, it will show me that my sum is 425. I've got a count of 8 and an average of 53.125. I can also do that with non-contiguous ranges. So I can highlight the 30. I'm going to hold my control key down, do the 50 and the 46, and notice it's only summing what I'm adding up here. I can also right click and I can add minimums, maximums, whatever, or I can take away some of these features. Next is the text to column. So I've got my chart of accounts and I want to separate them. So I'm going to highlight what I want to separate. I'm going to go to data, text to columns, and the wizard pops open. So I'm going to go to next, and I'm going to tell it that I'm using other and a dash. When I go to next, I can highlight and format any one of these columns that it's going to put it into, and then I click finish and it will separate them. Now, one thing that I normally do is I will copy, because I don't want to overwrite what I have here. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll copy it over to another column and then do my text to column so that I still have this one original. But again, you can do either one. Number 24, the enter key. As you're using Excel, the enter key will take you down a cell. But I have my little expense report here and I want to fill it out. I'm going to define my area first. Then I'm going to drop into the first cell. I'm going to use my tab key to go to the right. So I'm just going to enter something here. And when I'm done, I can tab one more time. But once I hit the enter key, it will go back to my starting cell down one, so that now I can do my office. So I can put those in, and once I get to the end, if I hit enter here, it will go down to repair. So I can just keep going down the list without having to take my mouse and putting it back, or using my arrow keys back to put those in. Now, another thing you can do is you can permanently set your enter key to move to the right instead of down. And that's in File, Options, and then Advanced. And it says after pressing enter, what do you want to do? You want to move down, you want to go to the right, you want to go up or left. So you can permanently move it to the right. And then if you were doing the same scenario I did, instead of hitting tab, as soon as you hit enter, but then it got to the end of that range that you previously defined, it would move down to the beginning of the next line. So again, you can use the tab key or you can set your enter key. But remember, if you're setting your enter key in that option, it's all the time. You're changing it for your Excel function all of the time. Okay, we'll look at conditional formatting. This is ways that you can make your reporting look a little bit nicer or just a little bit friendly. Of course, you wouldn't use every single one of these on one report because it does kind of look messy, but I wanted to show different things that you can do with conditional formatting. So in the data bar, the color scale, and the icon, this is just showing numbers. The data bars, the bigger the number, the bigger the bar. Of course, the smaller the number, the smaller the bar. We can look at color scaling, the same thing. The bigger numbers are green, the medium numbers are yellow, and the smaller numbers are in red. So think about if you had your sales for the week or sales for the quarter, sales for the month, you could actually look at them and then define them by color so that you can go to the green ones and say, oh, this month we did better than we did last month. So on the home ribbon is your conditional formatting. So when you look at the color scales, the first one is the green, yellow, red. You can do any one of these. As you see, as I'm moving over, it will change the color so that if you don't like the red, yellow, green, you can change it to another one. The icon scale, which is kind of cool, and anything, of course, that you highlight when you go over to the conditional formatting and I look at my icon, I can change them to arrows so that the bigger numbers are the red arrows or the green arrows going up, and the yellow are the medium, and then the red are the lower numbers. So again, it's just a visual way of showing numbers on presentations or reports that you may have to create. I can also go to my manage rules, and I'm going to go into edit the rules. You can preset these to different percentiles. These are preset to 67, so anything that's in the 67 percentile or higher is going to get the green, and so forth and so on. Let's say I don't want my yellow. I can say I don't want any cell color in there, and then I'm only going to get the red and the green. So you can do a lot with these conditional formatting. We can do the same thing with dates. So I can highlight these dates and I can go to my rules and I'm telling it that next month is green, this month is in red. And as you can see, anything in August is red, anything in September is going to be green. So you can highlight that. You can also highlight different names, different functions within the name. So anything that contains a D, or I did a B as well. So when I come into my manage rules, I can tell it that anything that contains a B, I want it to be in green, and then anything that contains a D, I want it in red. So as you see, our two rules here, we can attach new rules and put in different criteria. Same thing for the top 10, greater than, or below average. Again, all of these are set in our formatting, and we can look at our top 10s, our averages. We can also look at our greater thans, less than. So a lot of different things that you can do with this conditional formatting. And then one last thing with the formatting is this is formatted to say anything greater than 500, we can highlight the whole line. So again, please download your Excel formats because all of this is in here and all of the formatting rules are already created so that you can take that and do something with it. So our last two tips real quick are I want to copy paste the visual cells only. So I put filters on and I'm going to just say I want to just see days. So I see that I've got various numbers here. And so I'm just going to pick a range here. I'm going to copy and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to paste special, but I want it to skip the blanks. There I can just copy whatever it's, whatever I've highlighted. So now I will take it off of the filters and printing non-contiguous print areas. So I want to print two of these, two different areas, but I want to print them together. So I can highlight the first one. If I go to page layout, my page area, I'm going to set the page area. Then maybe I want to print something down below here. When I go to the print area, it's add to print area. When I go to file, print, every area will be on its own separate page. So that way I can print different sections without having to, or come in here and say, okay, now I want to print this highlighted section and then go back and highlight something else. So there are the tips that we have. And then to clear it, you just come up here, clear the print area, and they're all cleared for the next time. So hopefully this will help you with anything that you have with Excel and or GP. Again, we're trying to accumulate more tips and tricks to show you. And if you want to see more things or different things in GP, just let us know. We're happy to present these lunch and learns for you. Thanks again for joining us for this lunch and learn. And like I said, we're happy to, we're already thinking about putting other things together for you to learn more about Excel and GP.